Hello my dear friends and welcome to StudyIQ. I am Joy and today in this lecture we will analyze the report on forest fires prepared by the MoEF&CC and the World Bank. MoEF&CC is the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Let us start. First of all, let us analyze what is the current affair. The Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change along with the World Bank has recently released a joint report on forest fires in India. It is a joint report because it is prepared by World Bank along with the MoEF&CC. So it is on the forest fires on India. We will analyze what are the highlights of the report and we will also see what are the steps taken so far, what are the reasons and also what should be done. First of all, let us understand what are the highlights of this report. First, at least 60% districts in India are affected by forest fires every year. That means more than 50% or a majority of the districts in India are affected by forest fires every year, and that is why it is a major environmental issue. The extent of forest fires are very high. It covers 60% of districts in the country. Now, if we take the top 20 districts, that is the top 20 districts in terms of area affected, if we analyze them, they account for 48% of total fire affected area in the country. So, around half of the forest fires are caused in the top 20 districts. That means these 20 districts are highly vulnerable to forest fires. And this most vulnerable states, they are in the central India. So the area is central India. So we can say that the states in central India are highly vulnerable to forest fires. Now, the third aspect is the fire frequency. 16 out of the top 20 districts in terms of fire frequency, that is the frequency at which the forest fires occur. Earlier we have seen the top 20 districts in terms of area affected. That means the extent covered by the forest fires. Now, considering fire frequency, the frequency of the fires, they are mainly in the northeastern area. So, the frequency is high in the northeastern area and area affected in central India. So, northeast India is also highly vulnerable to forest fires. Now, considering the peak fire season. The peak fire seasons are mostly concentrated in the northeast as well as in the northern state of Bihar. So, from these two statements, it is clear that northeastern states are highly vulnerable to forest fires. Now, coming to central and southern India, they have more expansive. We have already seen this. So, more expansive means more area is covered. When a forest fire occurs, the area which is affected by the forest fire will be high in the central and southern India. So, we have already seen that the top 20 districts according to the area affected falls under central India. So, in central and southern India, according to area affected, it is very high. Now, the next one is widespread and frequent fires. The districts which are under the dry and moist deciduous forest, these districts or these states are frequently affected by forest fires and forest fires are widespread. So, which will be those areas? The borderlands of Chhattisgarh, Maharashtra, Telangana, etc. falls under this category, that is dry and moist deciduous forest. Now, coming to the case of protected areas. If we take the analysis done in the protected areas between 2006 to 2015, we will see that the forest fires were detected in just less than half of the protected areas in India. So, out of 614 protected areas, only in 281 areas forest fires were reported. So, less than half of the protected areas are affected by forest fires. Now, let us see what are the reasons or causes of forest fires. There are mainly two reasons. One is man-made reason and the second one is natural reason. Let us first understand the anthropogenic or man-made reason. So, people are one main driver of forest fires in India. And we will also see the forest fires are distributed close to people and infrastructure in India. So, from this it is clear that people have a major role in forest fires. These can be due to agricultural burning or negligence of land use patterns, consumption of fuel, etc. So many man-made reasons are there. There are also natural causes, out of which one important cause is the Indian monsoons from the Indian context. So Indian monsoons are largely responsible for the seasonal nature of forest fires in the country. If we look at the peak months, we will see the forest fires peak during the dry months. That is from March to April. So these months, that is March to April, this is just before the arrival of the monsoon. Monsoon begins from May, June. So these are the dry months, and these are the months where the forest fires are at the peak. And the forest fires in India mainly occur during the 4-month period, that is between February 15th and May 15th, and it will be at peak during March to April. Now let us understand what is the significance of forest fires, or why is forest fires in India a cause of concern for us. The first one is because it contributes to global warming. What is meant by global warming? Global warming means the rise in the average temperature. So forest fires causes or contributes to global warming, and this global warming will significantly contribute into climate change. Global warming means rise in the temperature, and when temperature increases, it causes climate change. And how is it caused? It is caused by releasing carbon, and this carbon is stored in trees, undergrowth, and also in the soil. So this carbon from the trees or undergrowth or from the soil will be released into the atmosphere, and it contributes to global warming. Secondly, it alters India's forest landscape and the fire regime. So in a way, forest fires causes a loss in the forest cover of the country. When the forest cover of a country comes down, it has a significant impact on the ecology or on the climate. So when a significant percentage or amount of forest is lost, it will have its own negative consequences. For example, loss of habitat for many plant species and animals. This will further lead to man-animal conflict. And secondly, it can increase the greenhouse gases. When there is a lack of trees, it will allow a greater amount of greenhouse gases to be released into the atmosphere. So it is harmful for the environment. Thirdly, the water in the atmosphere will be affected. How? The trees can help control the level of water in the atmosphere, and this is done through regulation of water cycle. When there is lesser forest cover, lesser water in the air will be returned to the soil. So what happens? Because of this, the soil will get drier, and dry soil means inability of the soil to grow crops in it. So fertility of the soil or the moisture level of the soil will come down. And there are other environmental effects also, like soil erosion, flooding, etc. So all these are negative impacts if the forest landscape shrinks. So forest fires can bring down the forest landscape significantly. So that is why this issue should be addressed carefully. Now what has to be done? One solution is to create additional carbon sink, and India has already pledged to create an additional carbon sink of 2.5 to 3 billion ton of carbon dioxide equivalent by 2030. Secondly, the MoEF has issued guidelines on forest fire prevention and management in 2000. But the problem is that these guidelines are not implemented in the true spirit. Even though certain guidelines exist, they are not implemented in its true spirit. An important component of this guideline is the annual plan of operation. So under the annual plan of operation, the states as well as the union territories are requested to submit the annual plan of operation for financial years. So according to the annual plan, funds will be released to the states, and also after the fund is released to the states will have to make a progress report, photographs, geographical coordinates, etc. in order to show to the center how the work has been progressed. But these guidelines are not strictly followed. So the implementation of these guidelines is a major issue, even though the ministry has issued certain guidelines in this regard. Now coming to the CAG, the Controller and Auditor General has documented there is a shortage of dedicated funding for FFPM. So there is shortage of funds for the implementation of these guidelines, that is the Forest Fire Prevention Management Guidelines. This shortage is not only with the center but also with the states. So these are the issues: shortage of funds and also not strictly adhering to the guidelines of the ministry. Now what can be done in order to contain this problem. The government should issue a national policy on forest fire prevention and management. That means the central government should formulate a uniform policy in order to protect the states from the forest fires. You can find the PDF of this lecture on my Facebook page, and for any queries related to your UPSC preparation or on the current affairs prepared by me, you can get in touch with me on my Facebook page. Thank you.